Hello, I'm Peas, and I'm about to go and watch Five Nights at Freddy's 2 at my local cinema. Outside of this film stuff, I do a bit of gaming, and I have played the first 4 FNAF games. See? FNAF! I'm cool! I have to be honest, I fucking hate jump scares, and those damn games freak the hell out of me. They really push my stress levels to the maximum. Maybe one day I'll record myself playing it. Now, I've seen loads of trailers for this film, and it does feel like it was made for a young audience. But the reviews that I have seen for this second movie are a mixed bag, with some people saying that it leans into the lore and things that perhaps only hardcore fans will truly understand. Therefore, they are giving it a bad review. Whereas there's plenty of other people who are passionately defending the film and saying that they think it's great. So without further ado, I'm off, I'm going to go and watch it, and I'll be right back and I'll let you know what I think. I'm back! I had really bad heartburn when I was at the cinema. Usually I get peanut M&Ms, but I didn't bother. I got a mixed slushie. Who knew that an icy cold drink like a mixed slushie would make heartburn worse? I genuinely thought I was having a heart attack very early on into the start of the film. But you're not here for my health stories. You want to know what I thought of this film. First of all, here's a little bit of an overview.
Freddy Fazbear's Pizza.
Definitely not the Freddy's I remember.
You're thinking of the franchise location.
Five Nights at Freddy's takes place about a year after the events of the first film, with the town treating the events that took place at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza as kind of a urban legend. Mike and his younger sister Abby are trying to rebuild their lives, but Abby remains obsessed with the animatronics that she made friends with in the first film, the little nutter. This cheeky monkey sneaks out one night to reconnect with Freddy, Bonnie, Chica and Foxy, but her shenanigans set off a new chain of spooky events that expose another long-buried secret around the origins of the pizzeria's past. Meanwhile, Vanessa, the policewoman from the first film, continues to struggle with the trauma caused by her father, William Afton, whose crimes still haunt the town. A darker force emerges in the form of the Marionette, introduced through a flashback to 1982 that reveals the murder of Charlotte Emily and the birth of this puppet, animatronic thing, whatever the fuck it is. As the characters are drawn back into the world of Freddy and his pals, the sequel expands the lore of the franchise while setting the stage, very much so, for future installments. Now, I wasn't expecting a masterpiece, and so I went into this film with pretty low expectations and that birth of terrible heartburn that I mentioned earlier on. What I saw was quite a mess of a film that, from a filmmaker's perspective, must be a difficult thing to put together. You've got to keep in mind the casual game player who's only aware of what the FNAF games feed you, which is very little in regards to a story and is mostly focused on jump scares. So we can tick that box. I actually think there's an opportunity to play on the jump scares more though, as from my own playing experience when it comes to the game, I find it one of the most stress-inducing things I've ever played. When the lights go out and you've run out of batteries for your torch or something and you've got no option but to just sit, waiting for that guaranteed jump scare. You never know when it's going to happen, and they could stick this sort of thing into the film too. From the filmmakers, they need to take into account the lore, as the hardcore fans who spent hours and hours going down rabbit holes around the backstory of Freddy and his pizza place are going to be the ones who fill the seats of the cinema. And this film has a lot of it. More than the first film, I think. I say I think because there were things happening on screen and the odd camera pan or flash towards a particular character when they said something that would kind of imply that it was an important nod to something only those obsessed with FNAF would understand. This took me out of the film a few times as I felt like I really was missing something that would have perhaps had me jumping out of my seat and screaming, "Yes, that's something Afton or something Springtrap." But I know nothing really of the lore. The filmmaker needs to really consider that some of the people watching the film are there simply because it's the latest release from Blumhouse. This person would have no clue about the game or the rabbit holes and backstory that have been floating around the internet over the years. And I think this is where the film perhaps did lose people. I do hate to admit it, but I think you will only get the most out of this film if you have been embroiled in the backstories and the mysteries of the Aftons. I felt I was watching a sequel to a film that I hadn't seen yet. Yes, the film called back to the events of the first film, but I still felt like I was missing something that only true fans of the game and the lore were aware of. I suppose finally, the filmmakers need to be aware that their primary audience are not going to be 15 years old, which is the age rating in the UK for this film. And so while they made the film with that rating, it has to be just touching the surface of what is acceptable for a pre-15-year-old to watch. You can get away with a lot of gore and violence and horror in a 15-rated film, and I felt that this one, if it had one particular scene involving less than 2 seconds of tumbling, severed limbs falling in shot, then this film could have actually been released very safely as perhaps a 12 rating, more in line, I think, with the fan base age. Overall, I like the film, and I'd like to watch it back to back with the first film to see if I get more out of it. Big Brother Mike was a whiny shit, unlikable and bland as hell. His relationship with Vanessa was very strange and slightly uncanny. They came across as barely even being friends and were more like work colleagues who had an awkward history rather than anything more than that. Abby was alright, acting was a tad ropey, but she played the part of being a little girl who wants to hang out with ghost children who are haunting animatronics as well as anyone could really. She certainly couldn't interact like a normal human being with any other human characters in the film. The stars of the show were the animatronics, and those were well portrayed. The new addition, this marionette, was actually quite a terrifying thing. And I say thing as it was more like some sort of spirit demon from a J-horror. Whenever this thing possessed somebody, they looked creepy as hell. And I can imagine that the internet, Comic-Cons and other cons and Halloween's going to be saturated with females attempting to look like this creature. My final rating for this film then, I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. It's watchable, but I think only those who genuinely know more about the lore will get the most out of this film. Have you seen Five Nights at Freddy's 2? If so, stick down there in the comments what I'm missing and what you thought of the film. Perhaps there's something that you can tell me that will change my mind, or a direction you can point me in to find out more about the lore for this film. Finally, if you've got any other recommendations for films that I should watch and check out, please also stick them in the comments. Thank you so much for watching my silly little video. I really appreciate it. I wish you the best day. Peace be with you. Always.
The cloud.